The participation of transgender and transsexual people in competitive sports is a controversial issue, particularly where athletes who have gone through male puberty are notably successful in women's sport, or represent a significant increased injury risk to female by birth competitors. Resistance to trans women competing in women's sports generally focuses on physiological attributes, such as height and weight, or performance metrics such as speed and strength, and whether sustained testosterone suppression can adequately reduce any natural advantages of male body characteristics within a given women's sport. Access regulations requiring that trans athletes compete against athletes of the same assigned sex at birth and requiring sex verification testing have been used. Proponents of such regulations regard them as necessary to ensure fair competition, while opponents regard them as discriminatory. Historically, sport has been seen as a male domain. The masculine perception of sport was first moderated with the rise of women's sports and further challenged with the gradual acceptance of gay sportsmen. A third departure from tradition occurred with the emergence of trans athletes, many of whom challenged the culturally accepted binary gender norms of male and female. An early high-profile transgender athlete was tennis player Renee Richards. Already a promising tennis player in the men's circuit, Richards underwent gender reassignment therapy in 1975 and started playing in women's tournaments a year later. Her discovery and the resulting media frenzy sparked protests after she accepted an invitation to a warm-up tournament for the US Open. The Women's Tennis Association and the United States Tennis Association withdrew their support and 25 of the 32 women withdrew. The USTA and WTA introduced the bar body test, which identifies a person's sex chromosomes. Richards refused to take the test and was banned from the US Open. She filed a lawsuit in 1977 claiming that her civil rights were violated and challenging that policy, and the New York Supreme Court ruled in her favor. The judge agreed that the bar body test as the sole determinant of sex was grossly unfair and ruled Richards legally female. She competed in the 1977 US Open at the age of 43, lost in the first round and retired 4 years later. At the time, the ruling in Richards's case did not lead to major changes outside of tennis. In 2003, a committee convened by the International Olympic Committee Medical Commission drew up new guidelines for participation of athletes who had undergone gender reassignment. The report listed 3 conditions for participation. First, athletes must have undergone sex reassignment surgery, including changes in the external genitalia and gonadectomy. Second, athletes must show legal recognition of their gender. Third, athletes must have undergone hormone therapy for an appropriate time before participation, with 2 years being the suggested time. It was not until 2004 that the IOC allowed transgender athletes to participate in the Olympic Games. In 2015, the IOC modified these guidelines in recognition that legal recognition of gender could be difficult in countries where gender transition is not legal, and that requiring surgery in otherwise healthy individuals may be inconsistent with developing legislation and notions of human rights. The new guidelines require only that trans women athletes declare their gender and not change that assertion for 4 years, as well as demonstrate a testosterone level of less than 10 nanomoles per liter for at least 1 year prior to competition and throughout the period of eligibility. Athletes who transitioned from female to male were allowed to compete without restriction. These guidelines were in effect for the 2016 Rio Olympics, although no openly transgender athletes competed. In October 2019, World Athletics changed the testosterone limit for transgender competitors, setting it at 5 nmol/L from the previous 10 nmol/L, in order to bring it in line with the DSD athletes. DSD athletes will be subjected to specific rules if they have XY male chromosomes, testes rather than ovaries, have circulating testosterone within the typical male range, and are androgen sensitive so that their body makes use of that testosterone. World Athletics requires that any such athlete must reduce their blood testosterone level to 5 NMOL L or lower for a 6-month period before becoming eligible for track running events from 400 meters to the mile run in international competition. Though World Athletics publicly remains open to extending this to other events based on new scientific study, World Athletics created these rules as a way to ensure fair competition in the women's category. In 1996, the Iron Ladies, a men's volleyball team made up of gay men and transgender women from Thailand, won the national championship. The Iron Ladies were not allowed to join Thailand's national volleyball team BUK,